Have you ever considered that perhaps prosperity, wealth, loving connections, and even opportunities that seem to emerge unexpectedly in certain individuals' lives aren't just mere chance? What if I told you there's a unique frequency capable of clearing all paths, and that you're already emitting it right this very moment, even if unconsciously? It sounds almost unbelievable, doesn't it? Yet, what if that's precisely why most people never achieve their goals? Because they try to change their lives without first transforming the frequency that creates it. Years ago, I found myself broke, drowning in debt, surviving on low-paying jobs, and completely lost. However, a profound shift in my vibration, a process that began deep within me, completely transformed my entire reality. And that's what I want to talk to you about right now. Everything is energy, without exception. This isn't a figure of speech, it's a universal law. Every object, every idea, every feeling vibrates at a specific frequency. The chair you're sitting on oscillates, the oxygen you breathe pulses, and so do you. What distinguishes a rock from a plant, or a feeling of affection from one of anger, simply lies in the frequency at which each resonates. This principle determines configuration, texture, and experience. And your entire existence, every single detail of it, is generated by this incessant vibrational emission that you broadcast, whether you realize it or not. I had to hit rock bottom to fully grasp this truth. While in debt, sick, and without prospects, what most intrigued me was observing how, despite desiring a better life, I remained confined to the same pattern of scarcity. I worked harder, I tried harder, yet the outcomes were identical. That's when a transformative revelation dawned on me. The universe doesn't respond to physical effort, it responds to emotional and psychic frequency. I was emitting lack, and in return, I received lack. Imagine a radio station. If you want to listen to a song that's on a frequency of 103.5, but your radio is tuned to 88.7, no matter how much you turn up the volume or bang on the equipment, the desired melody won't play. The only way to hear it is to change the station. And it's precisely like that with life. Success, abundance, love, and opportunities are all broadcasting on a specific frequency. And the only way to connect with them is to become vibrationally aligned. Have you noticed how, when you feel enthusiastic and grateful, everything seems to start going well? Traffic flows smoothly, people smile at you, situations just fall into place. Yet, on mornings when you wake up annoyed, everything seems to grind to a halt. This isn't bad luck. It's the mechanics of vibration. You attract events that align with your inner state. And your inner state is the exact mirror of the thoughts and emotions you nurture. Most people don't understand this dynamic because they've been raised with the belief that external circumstances dictate their emotional condition. But the opposite is true. It's what you experience internally that defines what manifests in your external reality. Upon grasping this, I began to observe what I was truly emitting. My verbal expressions were full of complaints, my daydreams carried fear and worry, and my feelings were heavy. How could the universe grant me abundance if I was radiating its exact opposite? So, I started practicing something simple, yet profoundly transformative. Daily, before leaving my home, I would dedicate a few minutes to check my state of mind. If something within me felt out of alignment, I would stay until I readjusted my vibrational frequency. I would close my eyes, breathe deeply, and focus on something that brought me well-being, a memory, a loved one, a realized dream. In a few moments, I could perceive the energetic shift. And as time went on, I noticed that the more I engaged in this practice, the more quickly things unfolded in my life. The moment I understood that energy isn't an ethereal concept, but a reality that responds to everything we project, everything clicked into place. Prosperity, for example, is a circulating force. It moves towards those who resonate in harmony with the current of appreciation. When you experience the fear of loss, when you believe it's never enough, you are emitting a vibration of scarcity, and financial resources withdraw. However, by radiating gratitude, generosity, and security, capital flows freely. I recall one night when I looked at my reflection and told myself, if everything is energy, then I am capable of transforming everything. In that instant, I understood that I didn't need favorable coincidence, but vibrational congruence. I stopped blaming the world, the past, circumstances. I grasped that the power resided within me, and the one thing I needed to master was my own energy field. The most astonishing thing is that this doesn't demand physical exhaustion, but clarity. With every thought you choose to hold onto, you are tuning into a new frequency band. And when sustained for long enough, that frequency begins to restructure the events of your life. Different people appear, ideas sprout, opportunities manifest. Everything starts to converge in your favor. While serving in the Toronto Fire Department, long before achieving any kind of success, I couldn't articulate what I was experiencing, but there were days where everything flowed effortlessly, and others where everything got stuck. Now I understand, they were distinct frequencies. The energy I emitted completely changed the kind of experience I attracted. And this dynamic occurs with everyone. So then, if you wish to change what manifests externally, start by looking inward at what's happening within you. Every thought, feeling, and word you profess is sending an energetic message to the universe. And the universe responds in the same language, resonance. Therefore, before taking any action, ask yourself, what frequency am I on right now? Because that question will reveal precisely what you are creating. Energy is the beginning and end of everything. By grasping how to manage it, nothing will overpower you anymore. You stop being a hostage to circumstances and become your own architect. And when this perception solidifies into a habit, existence transforms into a continuous flow, not something that requires imposition. This is the right resonance, the one that unveils all access. For a long time, I held the belief that my life would change the moment I desired something intensely enough. I kept telling myself, when my longing is strong enough, everything will change. However, the seasons passed, and even while aspiring for more resources, greater autonomy, a deeper purpose, nothing materialized. It was only when I assimilated a simple, yet profoundly revolutionary, truth that everything began to make sense. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you embody. This statement might sound harsh at first, but it is one of the most liberating truths out there, for it places you in command of your own reality. The universe doesn't respond to your pleas, it responds to your resonance. It doesn't matter how many times you verbalize the desire to progress, if deep down you radiate lack, uncertainty, or fear, that condition will persist in creation. Verbalizations are like ripples on the surface of a body of water, but the frequency comes from the depths of the lake, from the feelings you hold in private. The energy you sustain is your true appeal. I met people who declared daily, I am abundant, I am victorious, yet, simultaneously, deep within them, hesitation pulsed. It was similar to trying to sow seeds in barren land. The intention was there, but the resonance of fear choked off growth. The right frequency isn't built with verbiage, but with feeling. It's feeling that drives the energy, it's feeling that connects you to the frequency of what you desire. As I began to understand this, I noticed that every aspect of my existence was a perfect reflection of what I believed myself to be. My relationships mirrored my own insecurity, my bank balance reflected my fear of not being capable, and the opportunities one claimed didn't exist were blocked because I was still radiating lack. Genuine transformation began when I stopped trying to summon things and started shaping myself into someone congruent with what I desired. I remember a certain period when I started changing my self-perception. Daily, before going to bed, I would close my eyes and visualize my ideal self, a confident, peaceful, fortunate, inspiring individual. I wasn't pleading to become that person. I saw myself embodying it. I experienced the feelings she would have, moved as she would move, thought as she would think. And something extraordinary began to manifest, events around me started to shift. New people entered my path, ideas began to surface, opportunities appeared seemingly out of nowhere. But the reality is that nothing came by chance. I've simply begun to resonate with a refreshed version of myself. This resonance forms an attractive field, emanating from within outward. When you're attuned to scarcity, all your actions, even those you deem appropriate, carry an energy of lack. It's like trying to swim upstream against a strong current. You might dedicate yourself tirelessly, but you'll invariably feel exhausted, disillusioned, and drained. However, when you shift your internal frequency, the current itself transforms. Situations arise where the tide turns in your favor. The very initiatives that once felt burdensome now become effortless, and success unfolds without resistance. This is why countless people dedicate themselves intensely, yet never achieve prosperity. They try to change external outcomes without fostering an internal transformation. It's akin to replacing the mirror, expecting the reflection to change. The crux of the matter lies in energetically aligning yourself with the life you desire. If your desire is opulence, it's crucial to start feeling abundant even before financial resources arrive. If you crave affection, you must radiate love, even if you find yourself alone. This isn't about simulation, but vibrational congruence. It's the first step to becoming compatible with what you wish to receive. As I assimilated this truth, I encountered a revelation that reconfigured my perception of success. The cosmos doesn't understand, I want, but rather, I am. When you utter, I aspire to prosperity, the vibration emitted is one of scarcity, because the act of wanting already presupposes an absence. However, when you proclaim, I am prosperous, and perceive it as a reality, even if your bank balance reveals the opposite, the universe begins to reconfigure circumstances to mirror this new frequency. For several years, I lived yearning for more, and the more I yearned, the more distant everything appeared. It was only when I began to feel appreciation for what I already possessed, even if it was little, that the dynamic completely shifted. Gratitude represents the most potent vibration of all, because it communicates to the cosmos that you already have, that you already are star. And what is multiplies. One of humanity's greatest delusions is believing they must wait for an external change to experience a different internal feeling. They declare, when I have money, I'll be secure, when I find love, I'll be happy, when I achieve that position, I'll feel completely fulfilled. However, the order is reversed. When you feel confident, money appears, when you feel contentment, love arrives, when you feel fulfilled, possibilities unfold. Everything originates in the state of being. Doing and having are simply outcomes. For this reason, when I teach about vibration, I always reiterate, stop trying to modify your life and start changing the vibrational state that generates it. Ask yourself, what would this successful version of me be feeling right now? And then feel it. Even if the external landscape doesn't yet reflect it, keep vibrating. The universe never fails to respond to a sustained vibration. This is the distinction between living in response and living in creation. When reacting, the external world controls your vibration. When creating, your vibration shapes the world. And it's precisely at this moment, when you start vibrating from the inside out, that all paths open up, because you're no longer trying to attract success, you've become its very frequency. I'll never forget the night the transformation began. I was alone in a small room, surrounded by debts, financial obligations, and an overwhelming sense of failure. I worked as a janitor, earning just enough to survive. There were no prospects, no plans. Just emptiness and an inner voice that persisted, this is how life is. Accept it. However, that night, something remarkable happened. I was exhausted from listening to that voice. I picked up the book, Think and Grow Rich, which someone had given me days earlier, and started reading it without fully understanding what I expected to find. But one sentence struck me like lightning: whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, can achieve. I closed the book, looked around, and thought, if everything is energy, if everything is vibration, what would happen if I changed mine right now? This question seemed insane at the time, but it was the starting point for everything. I sat on the bed, closed my eyes, and began to visualize what it would be like to live the life I longed for. I saw myself walking into a sophisticated office, communicating with self-assurance, experiencing pride and gratitude. I didn't just imagine it, I felt it. Even if only for brief moments, I experienced the emotion of already possessing what I so deeply desired. And it was right there, at that exact moment, that something within me shifted. There were no new financial resources, nor new opportunities emerging, but I perceived a distinct energy. It was as if the burden I had carried for several years had been lifted from my shoulders. And in that instant, I understood, I didn't need to wait for life to change to feel good, I needed to feel good for life to change. That frequency, that elevated emotion, became the first rung on the ladder that would lead me to everything I subsequently achieved. In the days that followed, I noticed small signs appearing. Different people started to emerge, possibilities I would never have noticed before began to manifest. A friend offered me a better job, a client referred me for another service, and gradually things began to move. It was as if the universe was responding to the new frequency I had emitted. But the most relevant aspect of this narrative is that nothing changed externally first. The transformation was internal. And this is what most people still don't understand. They believe they need to wait for the ideal scenario to feel good, but it's precisely the opposite. External reality is a mirror of internal vibration. If you want to change the reflection, you need to change what the mirror reflects. At that time, I didn't understand cosmic laws as I do today. I didn't know what conscious vibration was, nor what an abundance frequency was. I just knew that when I allowed myself to feel appreciation, even without an apparent reason, everything seemed to fall into place. So I began to repeat the process every day. I would wake up, and before leaving for work, I'd imagine the life I wished to live. I perceived the details, the sound of my voice expressing confidence, the feel of an elegant garment, the smile of someone thanking me for helping them transform their existence. I experienced that within myself as if it were already a reality. Over time, this exercise ceased to be mere fantasy and transformed into a new vibrational identity. The man who once saw himself as a failure began to perceive himself as a creator. And that's when the world also started seeing me that way. This is how vibration operates. It doesn't magically alter the world, it alters **u**, and when you change, the world reacts. I like to say that that night was the moment I stopped being a victim of circumstances and became the architect of my life. Because everything begins with a choice, the option to change your own vibration, even when reality seems to offer no reasons for it. And that's a decision few make. Most continue observing what they see and reacting with the same emotions, perpetuating the same cycle, repeating the same results. But at that moment, even without realizing it, I had broken that cycle. For the first time, I chose to feel something different without depending on what I saw. And that's the key. When you allow yourself to feel the emotion of what you desire before it happens, you send a signal to the cosmos saying, I already am this. And the universe responds, because it always responds to the vibration of being, not to the vibration of lack. Several years later, looking back, I realized that everything I achieved, the businesses, the journeys, the incredible people I met, had its beginning on that simple night, in a small room, when a man without resources decided to change his own frequency. That was the seed of metamorphosis. Not because something mystical happened, but because I shifted the point of attraction. And this is what I want you to understand: you don't need ideal conditions to start. You just need to decide to change your vibration. Because vibration is the code that communicates to the universe who you are. And when that code changes, the entire universe rearranges the paths to find you. It all began with a simple thought: what if I changed my vibration right now? This question was the key that unlocked all the doors that, until then, had seemed closed. The most insidious trap that exists isn't failure, nor fear. It's unconscious repetition. It's waking up every day with the intention to change, but living each moment exactly the same way as the day before. Most people long for a new life, but continue vibrating at the frequency of the old one. They wake up with the same worries, cultivate the same thoughts, discuss the same dilemmas, and surround themselves with the same people who nurture the same stories. This is like trying to tune into a new radio station without moving the dial. You keep hearing the same song, no matter how much you complain about it. For a considerable period, that's exactly what I was doing. I claimed I wanted to be successful, but my vibration was one of scarcity. I wanted to prosper, but I acted like someone who believed they weren't worthy. Every day, upon rising from bed, my mind was already conditioned to react to the world, rather than to create it. The subconscious acts like an autopilot. It doesn't deliberate, it simply reiterates. It embodies the culmination of everything you've experienced, heard, and assimilated throughout your journey. This conditioning is so profound that 95% of what you do happens unconsciously. For this reason, even with a genuine desire to change, many always return to square one. The conscious mind declares, I want a new life, but the subconscious retorts, it's safer here. This voice isn't malicious, it was merely conditioned to protect you from the unknown. The problem, however, is that the unknown is precisely where expansion takes place. And as long as you cling to the security of your pre-existing frequency, there will be no room for the new to emerge. I recall a period when I began to accumulate more wealth than I had ever imagined possible. I felt invincible. Yet, shortly after, without even noticing, I started spending impulsively, making risky decisions, and before I knew it, almost everything was gone. It was then that I realized, the issue wasn't the money itself, but my pre-existing vibration attempting to guide me back to a familiar comfort level. My mind wasn't accustomed to thriving, it was accustomed to surviving. I had altered the external outcome, but internally, the same pattern still resonated. This holds true for many people. Individuals who enter incredible romantic relationships only to ruin them, professionals who land great jobs and suddenly feel distressed. People who achieve something grand and then inexplicably return to the same starting point. It's not misfortune. It's the old vibration reclaiming its territory. It wants to keep you captive to the known, even if that known means pain, limitation, or lack. The secret to breaking this cycle is awareness. Because as long as you don't observe yourself, you'll relapse. When I started noticing my own patterns, I realized that everything within me was predictable, the kind of thoughts that emerged upon waking, the way I reacted to problems, even how I spoke to myself. It was an invisible choreography that repeated itself daily. I was vibrating the past, reliving old memories as if they were the present. And because the subconscious doesn't differentiate imagination from reality, it recreated the same circumstances, repeatedly attracting the same situations. It was then that I conceived a new habit. Before reacting to any situation, I would pause and ask myself, where is this emotion coming from? Is it my present self or my pre-existing self reacting now? This simple question proved to be one of the most potent tools I've ever used. Because each time I consciously selected a new response, I weakened the old vibration and strengthened the new one. Change doesn't happen all at once. It's a vibrational training. You start choosing new thoughts, new emotions, new words, until they become inherent. And it's at that point that the subconscious accepts the new programming. The old frequency begins to lose its grip because you've stopped feeding it. It's like a radio station that stops broadcasting when no one tunes in anymore. Many believe that changing means eliminating the past, but that's not the case. It's about ceasing to dedicate energy to it. When you stop mentally reliving old stories, justifying why something always goes wrong, and repeating old feelings of guilt and fear, the past loses its hold over the present. And it's in that vacuum, that vibrational silence, that the new begins to emerge. What I've learned is that the correct vibration never emerges by chance. It's built through consistency. You don't need to be perfect, you need to be conscious. You need to observe when the old frequency tries to pull you back and firmly choose to stay with the new one. Initially, it's challenging, but it soon becomes second nature. Because the universe responds to what is constant, not what is occasional. So, if you feel you're stuck in a repeating cycle, pause for a moment and observe what within you is still vibrating with the old energy. What thoughts, words, and emotions are sustaining that resonance? Remember, the world doesn't change when you try to coerce it, it changes when you alter the vibration that generates it. And when this transmutation occurs, what once seemed unattainable begins to align perfectly. It's as if the universe says, now you're finally picking up the right tune. I always assert that there's nothing mystical about any of this. Vibration isn't a distant spiritual concept, it's pure physics. Every thought, every emotion, every word you utter emits a measurable frequency. Everything in the universe vibrates, and you are constantly emitting an energetic signal that communicates to the quantum field what should be created from you. When I assimilated this, I realized I was literally scripting my life with the waves of my own thoughts. Scientists already recognize that the human heart is a powerful generator of electromagnetic energy, capable of emitting a field up to 60 times stronger than that of the brain. And it is this field that interacts with the world around you. When you think something, and especially when you feel something, you are instantly altering your vibration. This is why emotions possess so much power, because they are the language through which the universe responds. For years, I tried to alter my results solely through physical effort, working harder, studying more, seeking strategies. But none of that worked consistently, because I was trying to change the effects, not the cause. The cause was always vibrational. Every negative thought I nurtured generated an equivalent emotion, and that emotion sustained an energetic field that attracted precisely the situations I feared. It was an invisible, yet perfectly logical, cycle. When I began to observe this process more closely, I noticed something fascinating. Every time I felt gratitude, even for something simple like a good conversation or a sunset, good things happened. And it wasn't a coincidence. Neuroscience studies show that elevated emotions, such as gratitude, love, and enthusiasm, alter the body's chemistry, increase heart coherence, and literally expand the vibrational field around you. This means you become magnetically more attractive to everything that is in harmony with that emotional state. That's why I say you don't need to chase anything. You just need to align yourself vibrationally with what you desire. When you do that, the universe begins to move the pieces for you. The right people appear, ideas emerge, coincidental events occur. I've experienced this so many times that I can no longer call it coincidence. It's synchronicity, the universe responding to the frequency you've chosen to emit. There was a period when I felt completely paralyzed. I yearned to grow professionally, but the harder I tried, the more obstacles appeared. Until one day, exhausted, I decided to stop fighting. I sat in silence and began to focus solely on the feeling of confidence. Not on the circumstances, but on the feeling. With each breath, I imagined myself in a state of tranquility and success, as if everything were already resolved. I wasn't asking for anything, I was just feeling. And something shifted. Minutes later, an idea emerged, clear, simple, and utterly different from anything I had tried before. The next day, that idea transformed into an opportunity that unfolded into new projects and partnerships. The only thing I had done was change my vibration. This happens because the brain and heart act as transmitters and receivers of frequency. When you are in a state of fear, doubt, or anxiety, you are vibrating at a very low frequency, and at that level, you cannot perceive solutions, even if they are right in front of you. Fear contracts. Gratitude expands. And the universe responds to expansion. People often ask, "But Bob, how can I feel gratitude if things aren't good?" And I always respond, that's exactly why they aren't good. Emotion is the cause, not the effect. When you alter your emotional state before reality changes, you are literally reversing the flow. Elevated vibration precedes external transformation. It's an act of vibrational faith. You feel what you desire before you see it. And that is when creation begins. Start seeing your own thoughts as instruments. When you strike a note of fear, the universe responds with circumstances that echo that fear. When you strike a note of enthusiasm, you receive opportunities that vibrate enthusiasm. You are the maestro of this energetic symphony. The problem is that, most of the time, people don't even realize the music they are playing. They live distracted, reacting to their environment, to the news, to comments, and all of this adjusts their frequencies to external patterns. But when you decide to take control, when you start consciously choosing the type of emotion you want to sustain, something extraordinary happens. The external world begins to reorganize around you. One might even imagine the universe itself, tuned to your renewed internal melody, expressing in recognition, "Now I clearly perceive what your soul yearns for." Resonance is the primordial language through which creation manifests and structures itself. It's not about contemplatively waiting for an external miracle to happen. True mastery lies in you becoming that miracle yourself, by consciously emanating the exact energy of what you seek to experience. For this reason, Albert Einstein's wisdom posited, align yourself with the frequency of the reality you desire to manifest and, as an irrefutable consequence, you will attain it. There is no alternative path to this realization. This transcends a mere poetic catchphrase, it's a fundamental and undeniable physical truth. So, whenever you find yourself caught up in unhelpful or negative thought patterns, ask yourself this crucial question: what vibrational frequency am I emitting right now? This is the quintessential transformative query. Because the very moment your vibration shifts, the energy field surrounding you changes too. And as that field reconfigures, the reality you experience will, inevitably, align with this new setup. This is the science of energy, the intrinsic physics of the soul, and the fundamental secret underlying all genuine and authentic manifestation. If, up to this point in our discussion, everything shared has resonated with you and made complete sense, then this is the precise moment to act. Because purely intellectual knowledge, without practical application, is merely a grand potential that eventually dissipates. A perfectly aligned vibration doesn't manifest solely through theoretical understanding. It truly originates when you deliberately and consciously decide to alter the energetic landscape you are currently emanating. And this determination needs to be accompanied by a symbolic gesture, something that clearly communicates to the universe, from this moment forward, I choose to elevate my personal frequency. So, if deep down you feel ready to embark on this significant transition, I ask you to do something seemingly simple right now: subscribe immediately and click the like icon. It might seem, at first glance, a trivial and insignificant action, but in reality, it's a powerful way to energetically declare, I am deeply and unequivocally committed to establishing this new vibration in my life. It's the dawn of an unprecedented frequency, and its starting point is a firm, unwavering decision. For a long time, I found myself constantly putting off decisions that had the inherent power to completely change the course of my life, simply because I passively waited, expecting to be in a state of complete readiness. I held the belief that I'd need more time, greater mental clarity, and an extra dose of inner courage. However, the undeniable reality is that the ideal vibration never manifests before a decision is made, it invariably arises as a result of it. You shift your vibration the moment you choose to move forward, even if doubt still lingers. The clarity you so desire emerges from movement and action itself, not from static, prolonged waiting. I distinctly recall a specific instance when I received an invitation to give a lecture in a foreign country. At that time, I had absolutely no prior experience, no idea what to expect, and a considerable part of my own psyche urged me to decline the offer. Yet, a deeper, more intuitive inner voice persistently whispered, accept the challenge, even if fear is present. And that's precisely what I decided to do. The vibrational signature emanating from that courageous decision completely altered the trajectory of my professional life. Individuals I would never have otherwise met appeared in my path, and possibilities that once seemed beyond my grasp began to materialize. All of this happened because, at that decisive moment, I chose to resonate with a vibration of intrepidity and daring, as opposed to inertia and hesitation. The same principle applies directly to your own life. Every time you allow fear to dictate and control your actions and choices, you are, in fact, reinforcing and reconfirming that old vibrational frequency. Conversely, every time you make the deliberate choice to move and progress, even if the final outcome remains an unknown, you are emitting a vibration of expansion and growth. And it is a universal truth that expansion, in its essence, is invariably rewarded. The universe, in its inherent intelligence, responds firmly to well-established decisions, not to weak or hesitant intentions. I want you to deeply absorb and comprehend that every physical act you perform is nothing more than an externalization and tangible representation of an internal vibration. When you perform something with total presence and mindfulness, when your actions are guided by a clear and defined intention, you are actively strengthening and consolidating a new and beneficial program within your vast subconscious. The simple gesture of clicking like, for example, transcends the category of a mere physical movement. It constitutes a true vibrational pact. It's your own body unequivocally expressing, I fully align with this positive energy, I choose to grow and evolve, I completely open myself to receive more. And this type of decision, made with such consciousness, generates and propagates a wave of coherence and harmony throughout your entire being. This is precisely how the entire transformation process effectively begins. First, a deep understanding of a new perspective emerges, then, the conscious decision to act manifests, and after these steps, the surrounding energetic field begins to shift and readjust. From that point onward, you'll begin to notice subtle, yet significant, transformations in your experience. Your mood will tend to improve, ideas will flow with much greater clarity, and people with distinct energies and purposes will start gravitating towards you. Initially, these changes might seem almost imperceptible, but their reality is undeniable. The intrinsic energy of the universe harmoniously reorganizes itself around the new vibrational pattern you are consistently maintaining. Now, it's entirely conceivable that a more skeptical part of your mind might be internally asking, but what if I can't maintain this elevated vibration continuously? What if, along the way, I fail in my intentions? And it's precisely at this crucial juncture that you absolutely must remember a fundamental truth: the real mistake isn't in falling or making an error, but rather in giving up and refusing to get back up after a fall. Maintaining a vibration isn't about achieving perfection at all times, but rather about cultivating unwavering consistency over time. No one can sustain an elevated energetic frequency without interruption. The primary secret lies in recognizing moments of decline and then consciously choosing to return to a state of elevation. It's this repeated choice, made and remade throughout your journey, that in turn builds and solidifies a new and unique energetic signature within your personal field. Think of your vibration as a muscle. In its initial stages, it's weak, unstable, and requires considerable effort on your part to keep it active and fully functional. However, with consistent daily practice, this energetic muscle gradually strengthens and becomes more resilient. You then reach a stage where maintaining an elevated vibrational state becomes natural and largely automatic. And it's precisely at that point that the experience of life begins to flow with remarkable lightness and ease, free from previous friction and resistance. For this inherent reason, if right now you sense a deep and unequivocal feeling within yourself, indicating that you are truly ready to embark on a significant transformation, do not allow that perception to be ignored. That profound inner feeling is, in reality, a clear sign that the vibration characterizing your past no longer harmonizes or resonates with who you are destined to become. The new frequency, with its promise of renewal, is calling to you, and all it needs to manifest is a firm, unwavering decision on your part. From now on, make the firm resolution to vibrate at a different, higher frequency. Decide to think with clearer, more defined purpose, to feel with a deeper level of gratitude for everything you possess, and to act with a more expanded and present consciousness in each of your deeds. And whenever any external or internal element attempts to drag you back into the chains of fear or the labyrinths of doubt, remember with conviction, you have already taken the first essential step. You've already begun the journey of change and self-transformation. The correct and harmonious vibration originates quite simply, with a humble yet intentional gesture, conscious and deliberate choice, an act of unwavering faith in yourself and your intrinsic capabilities. And the most beautiful and wonderful aspect of this entire process is that the moment you choose to embrace this new life alignment, the universe in its entirety begins to orchestrate and conspire in your favor. All elements and circumstances around you respond directly to your newly acquired energy, because the external world is nothing more than the faithful, vibrational echo of what you emanate from within. Therefore, keep this vital decision vibrant and alive in your heart and mind. Consistently maintain the high frequency you've chosen. And carefully, with keen insight, observe how, slowly but surely, doors that once seemed impossibly shut will begin, one by one, to open beautifully before you, unveiling fresh paths and opportunities. The primary and most significant obstacle hindering the proper manifestation of an aligned vibration in your life isn't a lack of theoretical knowledge, nor is it an absence of favorable opportunities. It's something far more subtle in nature, yet profoundly powerful in its influence: old mental programming, that deeply ingrained set of conditionings residing in the depths of your subconscious. This invisible and often imperceptible force is what I refer to as the paradigm. It represents the vast collection of beliefs, thought patterns, and emotional responses you absorbed and internalized from your earliest childhood years, and which, without your full awareness, governs and controls virtually all your actions, feelings, and choices. It is this paradigm that determines what you believe is truly possible to achieve, how worthy you think you are, and even what you consider normal and acceptable in crucial areas like financial prosperity, true love, or personal and professional success. Throughout countless phases of my life, I experienced an existence completely dominated and shaped by this outdated pattern of behavior and belief. Even after entering a period where I began earning substantial financial income, I still persistently felt like the same person I was before, the humble janitor who, deep down, profoundly believed he wasn't good or competent enough. The vibration I outwardly radiated had undergone a remarkable transformation, yet the resonance emanating from within me remained unchanged. And, since the subconscious mind invariably holds superior influential power, it wasn't long before I started engaging in a cycle of self-sabotage. I would make impulsive financial expenditures, make decisions that proved mistaken, and, without my full awareness, incessantly create situations that force me back to the same starting point. It was as if an intangible and invisible force was constantly pulling me down, and, in a deeper reality, this was the truth. This peculiar force is called unconscious self-protection. The subconscious employs all its resources to keep you confined within your comfort zone, even if that very zone is, paradoxically, a source of pain and discomfort. The human mind is, indeed, incredibly logical and astute when its primary intention is to keep you trapped in familiar patterns. It is capable of conceiving and generating perfectly valid and irrefutable justifications for your hesitation to make changes, expressions like, "This isn't the most opportune moment," "You're not fully prepared yet," "The initiative is excessively risky," or, "What if the final outcome isn't what's expected, and everything goes wrong?" The major problem lies in the fact that, while these phrases might sound sensible and prudent at first glance, they are nothing more than elaborate disguises for the manifestation of fear. And fear, in its essence, represents the most potent and paralyzing vibration of stagnation existing across the entire energetic spectrum. When you give credence to and believe these internal voices of hesitation, you are actively nourishing and feeding the very same vibrational frequency that has historically kept you confined and immobilized. I vividly recall a specific phase in my journey where this dynamic became palpable and evident in my practical experience. I had already solidified the creation of my own corporation, was engaged in constant travel, establishing contacts with influential personalities in various sectors, and yet, I persisted in experiencing an almost constant sensation that my entire edifice could collapse at any moment. It was as if I didn't truly feel worthy of the success and prosperity I was enjoying. On a particular journey, while attentively observing the incessant movement of people in a bustling airport terminal, a profound question emerged in my mind: why do I feel so guilty for having achieved prosperity? The answer, surprisingly clear, appeared as a sudden and impactful epiphany. My psyche was still deeply programmed to embrace the limiting belief that material success and spirituality could not, under any circumstances, harmoniously coexist. This restrictive conviction had been meticulously implanted in my subconscious during a remote period, fueled by a society that, in its culture, glorified sacrifice and simultaneously openly condemned abundance in all its forms. And as long as I couldn't alter this deeply rooted vibration, I was condemned to continue in a cycle of continuous and self-destructive self-sabotage. It was precisely at this crucial point in my journey that I attained a profound and revealing understanding of the true intrinsic power of mental reprogramming. The subconscious mind does not yield to alterations through mere conscious willpower. Its transformation effectively occurs through consistent emotional repetition. It is a fundamental premise that you dedicate yourself to replacing old and limiting thoughts with new thought patterns, until the brain, in its malleability, accepts this new configuration as something perfectly natural and inherent to its essence. And for this change to be lasting, it's not enough to merely reiterate empty words. It is imperative that one feels the emotion associated with these new thoughts. It is genuine feeling that holds the capacity to re-record and restructure the subconscious mind, because it does not process verbal language literally. It comprehends, in its essence, the universal language of vibration. Reflect deeply on this question. On countless occasions, have you expressed an ardent desire to acquire more financial prosperity, yet experienced a palpable sense of discomfort when visualizing and imagining substantial sums of money deposited into your checking account? On innumerable occasions, have you dreamed and aspired to establish a full and meaningful loving relationship, but unconsciously ended up sabotaging yourself at the first hint of vulnerability or intimacy? This behavioral pattern manifests because the subconscious mind, in its protective nature, vehemently rejects anything it does not recognize as familiar or safe. It invariably demonstrates a marked preference for what is already known and predictable, even if that familiarity translates into the painful continuation of a state of unhappiness or dissatisfaction. It is for this profound reason that a vast contingent of individuals frequently returns to old habits and behavioral patterns, even after having promised themselves, with great conviction, that they would enact a radical and lasting change in their lives. Once you absorb and comprehend this crucial perspective, the landscape of your existence transforms completely, opening up to new and promising possibilities. For now you understand that what holds you back isn't bad luck or a lack of aptitude, it's the pre-existing frequency that remains configured to sustain your former self. And to alter this scenario, discernment and commitment are fundamental. Whenever you identify a thought of uncertainty, apprehension, or regret emerging, pause for one instant and mentally affirm, this is merely old conditioning expressing itself, and I choose the new. Initially, it sounds overly elementary, but it is precisely in this manner that energetic transmutation begins. The subconscious mind resembles a computational system. It does not differentiate between what is factual and what is fantastical, it assimilates all information you reiterate with appropriate feeling. If for many years you reiterated to yourself that you were insufficient, it internalized that belief. However, if, from now on, you begin to perceive yourself as worthy, competent, and fortunate, and maintain this representation with profound emotion, it will also embrace it. And when such a process materializes, your frequency will alter by itself, and concomitantly, your external experiences. I have witnessed this phenomenon in my own journey and in that of countless other individuals throughout existence. Individuals who, until that moment, were entangled in patterns of fear, regret, or restriction, and who, upon recalibrating their inner frequency, began to magnetize opportunities that previously seemed unattainable. What transformed was not the surrounding environment, but the way they resonated within it. The most fascinating aspect is that, upon initiating the emancipation from this past conditioning, the cosmos puts your newly acquired frequency to the test. It places you in scenarios that, in the past, would have caused you to retreat, solely to verify if you still align with the previous matrix. And it is precisely at this juncture that it becomes necessary to persist with resolve. Each time you choose to believe, rather than question, you diminish the previous frequency and reinforce the current one. Over time, this newly acquired energy converts into your inherent state. Prosperity ceases to be an aspiration and transforms into an intrinsic extension of your being. You stop chasing and begin attracting, effortlessly. For your subconscious, now aligned, operates for your benefit, no longer as an opponent. This is true liberation, existing from a deliberately chosen frequency, not from imposed conditioning. Upon realizing this truth, you understand that nothing is unmanaged, there is no imbalance or randomness. There is only vibrational correspondence. You are a reflection of what you deem worthy. And the promising news is that, from this very moment, you can choose to believe in something considerably grander. Because the instant you decide to alter your programmatic matrix is the instant the entire cosmos begins its transformation alongside you. The imaginative faculty represents the bridge connecting the imperceptible to the tangible. It constitutes the most potent creative device humanity possesses, yet most people unconsciously employ it to sabotage themselves. Individuals use imagination to conjure mental catastrophes, to foresee every conceivable setback, to predict failure even before they try. They expend the mind's generative capacity to build fear. And, since the universe responds to the resonance of what is felt, not what is vocalized, they end up attracting precisely what they sought to avoid. For a long time, I, too, unintentionally employed my imaginative capacity. I envisioned myself failing, noticed debts piling up, watched opportunities slip away, and with each of these mental representations, I generated a frequency of lack and unease. The outcome was predictable: greater scarcity, more apprehension, more confirmations that I was right about my fears. Until the day I realized that imagination was a mirror, and that it reflected not what I aspired to, but what I considered feasible. At that point, I began an in-depth exploration into the power of visualization practice. I observed that prominent inventors, artists, and leaders of the past shared a distinct trait: they mastered the use of imagination as a tool for intentional creation. Thomas Edison, for example, mentally conceived the light bulb hundreds of times before its physical materialization. Walt Disney built the entire magnitude of his now familiar conglomerate long before laying a single brick, all within his intellect. They understood that the mind is the laboratory of existence, and that anything reiterated with appropriate emotional intensity in that realm eventually manifests in this one. I then began to replicate this approach. Each morning, I would sit for a few moments in stillness and project myself experiencing the desired existence, not as a distant fantasy, but as a present reality. I discerned the specifics, the people around me, the conversations I was having, the sensations my body registered. The key lay in feeling as if that reality was already established. It wasn't about simulating, but about embodying the frequency of what I was manifesting. Initially, my psyche resisted. It would declare, "This is a fallacy, you're not in that state yet." And it is precisely at this juncture that most people give up. For they confuse visualization practice with mere daydreaming. However, constructive imaginative capacity isn't about fantasies, it's about frequency training. It's the process of embedding into your subconscious mind what is habitual to it. When you experience something with intensity and consistency, the cerebral cortex doesn't distinguish between what is concrete and what is imagined. It begins to reconfigure neural synapses, and the body starts to resonate in alignment with this new information. And when the body vibrates, reality responds. There was a period when I carried a small card in my wallet with a single, specific goal written on it. I would consult it several times daily and envision myself already achieving it. This simple act awakened in me a feeling of accomplishment. And as time progressed, I began to notice small synchronicities, the right people crossing my path, surprising opportunities, insights that seemed to emerge spontaneously. But nothing came from thin air. These were frequency responses to a new inner archetype I had established. The most intriguing point is that this process is independent of your current situation. Even if your bank account is empty, even if the surrounding circumstances seem limited, your imaginative faculty connects you directly to the realm of infinite possibilities. It's like tuning into a different station on your reality screen. While most people cling to what they perceive, you can forge a link with what hasn't yet visually manifested, but is already in a latent state. And the cosmos delights in responding to those who dare to resonate beyond momentary conditions. Many individuals claim they can't visualize, stating their minds wander. This phenomenon occurs because most are accustomed to aimless daydreaming. However, visualizing is a proactive creative act. It's you taking charge of your mental landscape and determining what will be displayed there. The more emotional impetus you invest, the more vivid it becomes. The secret lies not in forcing images, but in focusing on how it would make you feel. Feeling is the language of frequency, and that's what the cosmos understands. I began to realize that visualization practice wasn't merely a tool for externalization, but also for harmonization. It kept me tethered to my purpose, helping me act in alignment with the frequency I was emitting. When you feel prosperous, you begin to make abundant choices. When you feel deserving, you behave as an individual of worth. And this establishes a virtuous cycle, where resonance nurtures conduct, and conduct strengthens resonance. If you wish to experience the authentic power of imaginative capacity, I propose a straightforward task. For the next 7 days, dedicate 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening to conceive the existence you yearn for. Observe yourself inhabiting this reality with an abundance of details: the setting, the people, the feelings, the colors, the sounds. But, above all, feel it. Feel the contentment, the gratitude, the serenity of already being in that state. Do this daily, without waiting for a specific time frame for its materialization. Simply trust the method and maintain the frequency. Gradually, you will perceive something within you beginning to transform. Unease dissipates, anxiety lessens, and a profound tranquility emerges, tacit conviction that everything harmonizes, that the pieces fit together. And it is in this state that the wonder manifests. For when the intellect aligns with the appropriate emotion, the cosmos takes on the task of rearranging the rest. What you conceive with conviction, experience with zeal, and sustain with persistence, invariably materializes. The imaginative faculty serves as the link between present reality and future potential. And by learning to bridge that connection with intentionality, you realize that you were never at the mercy of cosmic action. It was the cosmos awaiting your resonance in harmony with what legitimately belongs to you. Fear represents one of the most debilitating frequencies in existence and, paradoxically, the most cultivated by most individuals. It camouflages itself under the guise of caution, pragmatism, rationality, but, in essence, it is merely the force of opposition. Fear is the barrier that obstructs the intrinsic flow of generative energy through you. It doesn't annihilate your ability to envision, but it distorts the magnetism that should attract your aspirations. And the most intriguing part is that fear, in most instances, doesn't emanate from the present moment, it's a reminiscence of past experiences or a premonition of future events. It constitutes a frequency mirage, a resonance you inadvertently nurture. For a long time, I remained confined by this type of fear. Fear of failing, apprehension of being inadequate, dread of disappointing expectations. I would wake each morning with a premonition that something bad was about to happen, even if reality seemed favorable. This premonition actualized itself. The more I emitted that energy, the more circumstances arose to confirm it. Only upon understanding that apprehension doesn't signal withdrawal, but an impetus for progression, did I change my interaction with it. The reality is that unease doesn't vanish with an increase in your strength, prosperity, or experience. It morphs, yet it persists in manifesting. The difference lies in your reaction to its appearance. As I delved deeper into the study of energetic resonance, I understood that apprehension is merely a poorly channeled force. It represents the same creative power, but corrupted by restrictive ideas. If you master the art of observing fear without opposing it, an extraordinary phenomenon occurs. It transforms into a propelling force. Such was my experience when I chose to leave the fire department to start my own venture. I had no financial resources, no experience, and, frankly, lacked clarity about my next steps. However, an inner intuition whispered, "Move forward, and the path will reveal itself." I felt terrified, but I chose to proceed nonetheless. It was precisely in that blend of audacity mixed with apprehension that all events began to unfold. The unease was there, but I did not allow it to dictate my vibrational pattern. Success isn't about eradicating fear, it's about maintaining a high energetic resonance even when it tries to drag you down. The most prosperous individuals I've encountered, and I've had the privilege of knowing many, experience apprehension just like any other human being. The distinction lies in the fact that they've learned to interpret fear as an indicator that they are on the right path. Hesitation serves as a pointer that you're approaching a new level of energy. If it appears, it signals that you're breaking free from past vibrational patterns, and your subconscious is trying to keep you in your comfort zone. For this reason, whenever worry emerges, celebrate it. It is the evidence of your growth. Science confirms this reality. Neuroscience studies reveal that the sensation of dread activates the same brain regions responsible for euphoria and drive. The only variation lies in perspective. The body perceives an identical surge of vitality, the same biochemical stimulus, but the psyche assigns different conceptions. If you categorize it as risk, the body adopts a protective stance. If you label it opportunity, the body inclines towards expansion. It's the same power, but an entirely different vibrational frequency. I recall a conversation with an extremely successful entrepreneur in New York City. He uttered something that has never left my memory: "I've acquired the habit of moving towards what frightens me, because I understood that everything I desire lies beyond it." And this realization has been reiterated by countless individuals who truly progress. Fear is the ultimate guardian preceding the next stage. It emerges to verify your vibrational congruence, to inquire if you truly profess your conviction. By evading apprehension, the cosmos understands that you are not ready for the unprecedented. However, when you confront it, it unfolds before you. Dread constitutes a low-density energy, and it only weakens when illuminated by perception. The mere act of contemplating fear already initiates its fading, for you cease to resonate with the emotional charge and begin to resonate with the fullness of the now. There's a simple practice I've adopted and advise everyone to follow. Whenever fear manifests, ask yourself, what is this unease trying to reveal to me, and what would be the inverse polarity of this feeling at this moment? If fear whispers, it's unfeasible, the counterpoint is, I am capable. If dread indicates, everything will fail, the reverse is, everything harmonizes perfectly. By recognizing the inverse and choosing to tune into that frequency, you build a vibrational link that converts apprehension into belief. Belief, in essence, represents the most sublime resonance one can experience. It doesn't demand evidence, it generates it. When you place unrestricted trust, your body changes, your consciousness modifies, your energetic envelope transmutes. Faith is the frequency that converts potentials into concrete facts. Oprah Winfrey often states that whenever she felt afraid to advance to the next stage, she would evoke a fundamental premise: fear is an adverse plea. And that is the pure truth. Dread is an energetic declaration that you trust deprivation more than fullness. In contrast, conviction is the certainty that everything is already working to your benefit, even if literal vision doesn't perceive it. Apprehension is ineluctable, however, submitting to it is a personal choice. With each confrontation, it loses a portion of its dominion over you. And the more frequently you choose to emit a vibration superior to it, the more robust your energetic strength manifests. Valor does not consist in the absence of fear, but in the deliberation to radiate affection and security even amidst ambiguity. Essentially, fear is merely a reminder that something within you aspires to development but still doubts your capability. It serves as a call to expansion. And upon embracing this summoning, energetic resonance instantly changes. The cosmos perceives, the field reacts, and existence begins to lead you to destinations that previously seemed impossible to reach. For apprehension did not represent the journey's conclusion, it was, in fact, the passage. The entire cosmos responds to the centralization of attention. Life force converges precisely where concentration is channeled, and this is one of the most elementary yet most disregarded realities by the majority of humanity. What you nourish with your thoughts and feelings prospers, what you despise and cease to feed disintegrates. Attention is the engine of energetic resonance. Every moment you reflect, feel, and verbalize about a topic, you are amplifying that frequency within your being. For this reason, so many individuals remain entangled in repetitive patterns of adversities. They become experts in what they don't want, reiterating and strengthening the vibration of what they long to eradicate. I assimilated this lesson through experience, and in a very challenging way. There was a phase when I dedicated many hours to apprehension over financial obligations, debts, and uncertain outcomes. I verbalized the desire for abundance, but my consciousness was attuned to scarcity. I examined bank statements and emanated apprehension, gazed at the future and radiated uncertainty. An existence replicated that consonance with precision, more circumstances that validated my unease. It was only when I initiated an intentional alteration in my attention that events began to metamorphose. The key lies in understanding that concentration is a generative force. It functions like the brush that outlines the canvas of your existence. By fixing your mind on something, you are emitting a vibrational communication to the cosmos, asserting, "This is what I wish to experience." And the universe, which interacts with resonances, doesn't differentiate whether the object of your attention is desired or rejected. It merely amplifies what is sustained by your discernment. Therefore, if your concentration falls on obstacles, you magnetize more obstacles. If it is on alternatives, it attracts more pathways. I began to educate my psyche to envision beyond imperfections and to identify what was fully functional. Initially, the task seemed almost impractical, given that my ingrained mentality persisted in seeking flaws, in predicting the darkest outcome. However, I compelled myself to reorient my perspective. Instead of pondering, I find myself indebted, I reflected, I am learning to manage the movement of capital with greater proficiency. Instead of uttering, "This situation is complex," I declared, "This empowers me." Minimal modifications in attention, applied with assiduity, began to completely alter my energetic resonance. And the vibration, as usual, transformed the outcomes. On one occasion, I heard a maxim that truly impacted me: circumstances are never altered by fighting the status quo. To effect change, build an innovative paradigm that nullifies the predecessor. This was precisely my action. I ceased the struggle against deprivation and began the mental construction of the representation of abundance. Instead of merely responding to the conjuncture, I began to conceive a new reality. When the centralization of attention changes, life force reorganizes. It resembles adjusting the lens of a camera. What was indistinct gains clarity, and what seemed remote begins to materialize. Individuals who achieve notable successes do not enjoy an existence devoid of adversities. They have simply learned to guide their concentration. They hold the knowledge that attention represents the most precious asset belonging to them. If you direct your attention towards something unfavorable, you are investing vitality into it. And vitality is the currency of the cosmos. Upon beginning to understand this interaction, I started to consider my reflections as applications of capital. I questioned myself, does this thought currently occupying me bring me closer to or distance me from the vibrational pattern I aim to maintain? If the answer was distances, I realigned it immediately. I recall a very particular occasion that elucidated the power of this to me. I was on an aerial journey returning to Toronto and dedicated approximately 2 hours to apprehension over an endeavor that seemed to be collapsing. Upon touching down, I felt exhausted, yet nothing had actually changed, except for the drainage of my energy due to poorly focused attention. At that instant, I determined that I would never again dissipate my resonance on what I did not wish to amplify. And it was from that point that I began to notice an intriguing aspect. The more I sustained concentration in elevated emotional conditions, the more the cosmos seemed to enter into consonance with me. Suitable individuals emerged at the precise occasion, undertakings progressed without hindrance, significant coincidences occurred constantly. It seemed that reality aligned with the clarity of my attention. And, in a certain way, that was precisely the dynamic in progress. Quantum science already reveals that the observer alters the manifestation of the energy being analyzed. The mere act of perceiving, of directing the mind towards something, modifies the quantum landscape. This is academic evidence that concentration is not inert, it generates. And if this premise is valid, every dispersed thought, every lament, and every adverse feeling constitutes a way of generating without discernment. For this reason, I initiated the practice of an uncomplicated method. Whenever something afflicted me, instead of reacting impulsively, I would inhale deeply and inquire, what hidden lesson resides here? What is this circumstance seeking to reveal to me? Such a question swiftly shifted my focus toward expansion, not adversity. And it was remarkable to observe how, after this transition, solutions that were previously imperceptible began to emerge spontaneously. Focus is a manifestation of strength. It determines whether you will continue to reproduce the past or build a new future. If you wake up and reflect on the same desires, experience the same feelings, and express the same limitations, you are echoing the past and calling it the present. However, if, conversely, you deliberately choose to direct your energy toward what you wish to experience, even if the world around you shows no signs of it yet, you begin to emanate the future, and that is how the future materializes. The cosmos does not respond to those who feel lack, but rather to those who resonate with clarity. And attention is the tool that gives your frequency that precision. Therefore, the next time something slips from your grasp, do not ask, why is this happening to me, but rather, where is my focus directed right now? For this question, more than any other, has the power to change everything. By shifting your attention, you modify your environment. And when your environment transforms, inevitably, the world changes along with you. The power you hold at this moment is outlining the coming chapters of your existence, and every intentional thought you choose to cultivate is a seed planted in the immaterial soil of potential. Therefore, maintain this resonance, sustain this state, and observe how the cosmos begins to respond with exactitude to the wave you are propagating. And before you proceed with your day, reflect on someone who might benefit from this message, someone who might need to remember the mastery they hold over their own reality. Forward this visual recording to that individual, share this resonance with them. This is how we establish a flow of lucidity that elevates us all. My immense gratitude for your companionship up to this point and for allowing this vital force to circulate among us. Stay resolute on this path of expansion, as the next recording will lead you to an even greater depth in this awakening. I look forward to your presence.